So over the course of One Piece, we are introduced to many weird eyes. However, the weirdest eyes do come up in our current arc of Elbaf, which is going on in the manga and anime, so spoilers for Elbaf. However, during this arc, we are introduced to a holy knight by the name of Man-Mayor Gunko. Man-Mayor Gunko has heterochromia, meaning she has two differently colored eyes. However, as the arc commences, we find out that she has a personal relationship with Brook of the Straw Hat Pirates. As we find out later on in the arc, during another Brook flashback, Brook and Gunko come from the same kingdom in the West Blue, once known as the Hesperia Kingdom, and she was born with heterochromia. However, we then find out that the king of the Hesperia Kingdom, King Ruvian, is not her father. Her biological father is actually another holy knight by the name of Man-Mayor Grow. We find in chapter 1186 that the heterochromia is a family trait of the Man-Mayor family. However, it's not just two differently colored eyes. These eyes seem to have a hidden ability, as Grow talks about it in that chapter. So, the topic of this video is that what hidden ability could the Man-Mayor family's heterochromia actually have? And I think I might have an answer. So, we find through several different panels in the Xebec flashback that happens earlier on in Elbaf that Gunko is some sort of a personal attendant to Imu alongside being a holy knight. And I started to think, why did Imu have Gunko as a personal attendant? Now, one idea is that Imu just likes blue-haired women because we know Nefertiti D. Lily is also a blue-haired woman, so maybe they just like blue-haired women, seeing as how they have a whole portrait of Lily in their flower room. But another idea is that the eyes are actually more important than we know. Because one thing I think the eyes could be able to do is intercept or perhaps negate the effects of Conqueror's Haki. And the reason why Conqueror's Haki is the topic here is because Conqueror's Haki, as we find out through the greater part of the Elbaf arc specifically, through the Xebec flashback and the events that have been going on in the arc thus far with various holy knights, it seems as though Conqueror's Haki imbued strikes do actually negate or cause great pain to those who are immortal via the Devil Fruit abilities of Imu. So, with that being said, I would think Imu would be on the hunt for an ability in the world that can somehow disable or counteract the effects of Conqueror's Haki imbued strikes, seeing as how those are the bane of Imu's abilities. It is unclear whether or not Gunko has unlocked this ability already, but seeing as how she's 77, perhaps it takes a long time in order for it to be unlocked, or perhaps Imu misunderstands how it works and keeping Gunko in a sort of bondage actually prevents it from unlocking. I'm not sure, but I could see why Imu would keep Gunko close if this was the case, seeing as how the use of Conqueror's Haki does seem to be the bane of all of Imu's abilities. So, with that being said too, what I could believe is happening is that when she does unlock her ability, perhaps when she sets eyes on a Conqueror's Haki user, she can simply disable their ability to use Conqueror's Haki if they're in her line of sight. This is also a very interesting thought when you consider that Conqueror's Haki seems to have many more abilities than we know, because it was revealed during One Piece film Red that Conqueror's Haki has the ability to disable an advanced observation user's future sight, which is very interesting considering that earlier on in the Brook flashback, it was suggested that Gunko was already developing the ability to use future sight even at such a young age, because she was around 14 at the time. So that's interesting that these two could parallel on that front. Her developing advanced observation haki, but then when she unlocks this weird biological trait, she can then disable the thing that disables future sight, being Conqueror's haki. I think it could work out that way. I really do. That seems very plausible to me. Now, you could make a bit of a narrative pun out of all this, because while she has been a literal king killer in killing her adoptive father, King Ruvian, you could then turn around and say she could be a figurative king killer in being the nemesis to disabling Conqueror's haki, also known as Color of the Supreme King. I just thought of that, and that's a very interesting pun that could be made out of all this, but we'll have to wait and see. But to continue, with that being said, that's all I have for you today. If you are enjoying the video so far, give me a like, and if you want to see more from me, hit the subscribe button followed by that bell so you never miss a video. In addition to, hit the hype button because it really does help. And with that being said, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Polypede Works.